my last few moments in Barcelona and Plaza Catalunya here in La Rambla. If you've ever been here before, you know it's pretty dope. Just finished the week and I'm heading home now, and it just forced me to kind of look back and see what I learned and what I got out of the weekend. I attended Joe Dispenza's week-long meditation retreat for the purpose of deepening my knowledge and understanding of meditation. I see it as a meditation training. A lot of people went there that I noticed they were looking for a connection to the divine. I already feel pretty solid and robust with my connection with the divine. I was going to deepen my understanding. And one of my greatest criticisms with Dr. Joe is that he doesn't take Q&A. And so when he offered to do that, I was one of the first people who raised my hand, and I asked him a question about the concept of meditation being used as a band-aid, as a way to numb the pain of a past trauma, a past event that you feel resentful for. At what point is meditation a kind of a bypassing, a way of bypassing actually doing the necessary work? I hope everybody's okay. Give it a moment. This is actually the location very close of the terrorist attacks just a few months ago. So it's pretty interesting whenever something like that happens. You're like, okay, what's going on? So is meditation a form of bypassing? Is it something that we do to kind of numb the pain from a past traumatic event? I asked him, what's the difference between meditating and just repressing bad memories? Don't we want to go back there and recontextualize them? And so I just wasn't really happy with the response. It wasn't very direct. It was kind of more kind of a show and a lesson. And I wanted a chance to actually talk to him one-on-one. And I asked him if it was possible that we go back and have an interview about the entire thing. And he kind of referred me to his staff. We didn't get around to it. So I'm gonna do this kind of episode anyway and share with you what I think about the whole concept of repressing memories and healing from trauma and using meditation as a healing tool. I do believe that it's a very useful tool to create a new state of being. I'm 100% behind that. My personal opinion though, working with people with trauma from their past, is that past events get stored actually in the body. Trapped emotions in the body from past events that haven't yet been completed are a major cause of anxiety, depression, chronic illness in today's world. It's basically old trauma stuck in the body. And our current medical tools that we have with psychotherapy and medication don't actually work in getting to the root cause. It just doesn't. It's a fact. It's a very, very low probability of fixing the issue if we actually don't go back and change the story from the past. First and foremost, you gotta understand past trauma gets stored in the body in an unconscious level. That's why we're walking down the street, or people who've had really bad car accidents, they'll just drive by the scene of the accident like a year later, and boom, they'll go into fight or flight. It's totally unconscious. It's something stored in the body, and a meditation isn't gonna get rid of that. But what I've experienced using the overview method, which is a body, somatic approach, and a cognitive intellectual approach, by integrating the two together, it leaves the individual with the best chance of transformation. Now, when you set the tone from the foundation, any meditations you do, you'll get the most out of. When we go through trauma, anything that's not fully completed by process, like, you know, when a animal goes through a trauma, they kind of experience it, they shake it off, and it's complete. Us humans get stuck in those patterns, and those patterns get stuck into our body, and they get trapped. And it's only by actually going through the scene of the crime intellectually in your mind and in your body, again, in a safe place with practitioners who are trained and experienced in guiding other souls through very dark times. Perhaps they've been through it themselves and they get it. only by going there and experiencing, re-experiencing those feelings again, and repatterning and reinterpreting and depolarizing those emotional states, can we actually, at a nervous system level, get complete and complete that cycle, kind of like an animal who goes through trauma and shakes it off. Can we actually heal? So it involves going back there, not repressing it, not bypassing it, not, oh, I just got to think of other things and repeat chants and ohms and mantras. And no, you got to get into the dark, baby. You got to go into the dark and re-experience it again with somebody who's trained, experiencing it, taking you to the other side, depolarizing it, so that you can actually process and regulate your nervous system. That's part one. Part two is, from my experience of working with clients using the overview method, whenever there's a trauma, whether it's a sexual trauma, whether it's an abuse situation, there's a story or an interpretation that the person has made out of it. So if you've gone through something, if you really dig deep, after doing hundreds of these cases, I'll tell you right now, the story usually is, I'm powerless, I'm weak. And that story in itself is the major cause of your anxiety, major cause of the prolongation of this powerless feeling, this lack of trust, when you don't get this right, you walk around feeling not safe in the world. Until you have the right practitioner who teaches you or shows you or opens the door to the possibility that in that moment, you weren't actually powerless at all, you were quite powerful. And by changing that story, you have this mind-blowing realization all along that in those times where you were abused or you were going through that trauma, you were actually in a state of power. You were actually gaining resilience. You were actually being introduced to your superpowers. If you look at every superhero movie, the superhero was always introduced to their superpowers through a traumatic event. So every single client we've worked with in our program who has acknowledged what their superpowers were, they have seen that their superpowers were born during that traumatic event. So it is through the changing of that story where a person finds their power again. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, they are no longer victims. Now, once you've done these two, guess what happens when you do meditation? You now can get the most out of your meditations and future creations. So the moral of the story is meditating without really closing the loop and changing the story and regulating the nervous system, I believe it's a waste of time. Completely a wasted effort, waste of time. And if you've gone through a past that is too difficult for you to even think about, it's important that you get the right help. The people who are trained to go back there, not just talk therapy, not just meditation and bypassing, but actually getting the most out of your meditation by changing your nervous system and changing your beliefs about the event. That's how I feel. It might be controversial, but let me know what you think. The entire event, so that you can see your power when you didn't see it before. Sorry, I gotta watch for pickpockets on this street. I'm a little bit paranoid right now.